Well, I fear that I'm going to add additional complexity to the discussion today. And I'm not quite sure how you're going to process this information, but hopefully when we get to the discussion, we'll be able to try to synthesize everything that you've heard today. I'm going to be talking about immigration in general. And I'd like to start off by saying that I think popular opinion and sometimes expert opinion tends to diminish the role of immigrants in our society. Many people don't quite understand how important the infusion of immigrant talent and labor has been to the overall economy. We seldom see immigration as a win-win, not just for immigrants, but for everyone else in American society. Now, with that flawed narrative as a backdrop, any discussion of the possibility of jobs leaving the country is naturally going to raise a red flag with regard to immigration and sort of not recognizing the important role that immigrants have played as job creators, either through their entrepreneurial activity or by providing the labor that has allowed entire industries in the United States to flourish. Also, by the way, and I just stumbled upon a very interesting study that was just produced at the University of Pennsylvania, ignoring the role that immigrants have played in urban revitalization in the United States. Over the last 5 years, 49 of the top 51 cities in the United States have gained population, and I'm including in that, many of the so-called Rust Belt cities. So this is quite a transformation, and we don't often give proper credit to immigration in achieving that kind of transformation. We talk a lot about the creative class and less about the immigrant role in urban revitalization. I want to make two what I think are very important points. We need to maintain immigration levels in the United States that will be sufficient to sustain and stimulate the economy going forward. Point number one. And point number two, there's a need for fundamental reform of our immigration system, and I want to touch on that. Let me begin by elaborating on the first point. I'd like to suggest that there's a demographic imperative to immigration caused by declining birth rates, not only in this country, but all over the world. According to a 2014 report from the Bipartisan Policy Center, 81 of 197 countries in the world are experiencing birth rates that are below replacement level of 2.1. And the problem is especially acute in the developed world. Let me give you one example. One of the most hard-hit countries is South Korea, with a birth rate of 1.19, one of the lowest in the world. In South Korea, you have many men that are going overseas to find wives in countries like China and Vietnam and the Philippines. This same problem exists all over Europe. Sections of Germany, especially in the east, have become depopulated. So, the other issue here is that this baby bust is also causing the graying of the population. And that's creating a need for workers to pay into social insurance systems in order to cover the cost of caring for seniors, and also people to actually provide services to infirm adults. So U.S. is experiencing similar pressures. I don't know if you noticed this, but the Center for Disease Control announced that the fertility rate in the United States has fallen to the lowest levels in recorded history, going back to 1909. Now, we've been shielded from the worst effects of this population decline because of the power asset of immigration. Indeed, the U.S. population is expected to continue to grow through mid-century. However, according to a Pew study, almost the entire growth in the working age population in the United States, something like 93%, will be provided by immigrants and their children. The Bipartisan Policy Center concluded its report by saying the following: immigration has the potential to help the United States maintain its global, political, economic, and military primacy. Now, my second point concerns the nature of the immigration system that we have inherited. In its fundamentals, this system goes back to 1965, and it's in need of a major overhaul. Let me give you one example. At present, no more than 14% of the roughly 1 million permanent resident visas or green cards that are issued every year go to people because they are filling important economic needs in our economy. And you know, not even that 14% is an accurate number, because it includes the immediate family members of principal applicants. So when you look at the broad picture, we are providing very few visas to people because they're filling important economic needs. As the nation with a higher education system that attracts the best and the brightest from all over the world, and Catherine, you often say this, we should be providing a pathway for PhD recipients, especially people with skills in the STEM arena, to be able to transition to permanent residence. We don't have that. And in fact, what we have, even before the current administration took office, the US share of the international student population has declined from 28% in 2001 to 22% in 2014. So we're already operating in an environment of greater competitiveness in attracting international talent. And of course, there are signs now, ominous signs of, I guess what I would describe as a Trump-induced further decline in international student enrollments, just looking at application figures for next semester in some of the STEM fields, which are much lower than previous years. So this is at a time, remember, when other countries are competing very aggressively for a greater share of the international student population and are providing the kinds of pathways that I'm talking about so that international students can ultimately contribute their talents, if they so choose, to the country of their education. Now, another reason for policy reform is that the demographics of the world migrant population are changing. You know, educational attainment in terms of years of schooling are increasing worldwide. That improvement in the education of the migrant population is reflected here in the United States. For example, if you looked at the immigrant population in the United States in 1980, 40% of all immigrants at that time lacked a high school diploma. Only 19% were college graduates. By 2010, there has been quite a shift. There are now actually more immigrant college graduates than people without high school diplomas, 30% versus 28%. Although you might assume that people with a greater education will have an easier time adjusting to society, that's not always the case. There's something called the phenomenon of brain waste, where people with degrees earned in their home countries are working in jobs that are really not commensurate with their education, their skills, and their training. And that is a problem that we face here in New Jersey. The Migration Policy Institute issued a report last year that counted more than 100,000 foreign-born New Jersey residents with college degrees who are experiencing this phenomenon of brain waste. So clearly, there's a lot that workforce systems need to do in order to steer this population, very often a population with the kind of STEM skills that are in short supply, to help this population succeed in our economy. So let me offer a conclusion. I would say in light of all of these developments, and perhaps paradoxically, considering the rhetoric that we hear on the immigration issue, the primary challenge that we may face in the years to come is attracting the newcomers in a world where immigrants may actually be in short supply, especially considering the declining birth rates in some of the traditional sending countries to the United States, like Mexico, like India, like China. All of those countries experiencing that problem. Thank you very much.